Humans are, without question, the most ridiculous species the galaxy has ever produced. And trust me, I have cataloged over 4,000 sentient species across 12 galactic sectors, so I know what I'm talking about. Zeet Sarah. Come quickly, my research assistant, Ploon, called out with all four of his vocal sacs vibrating in excitement. The human is doing something again. I rolled my optical stems in what humans would call exasperation, a gesture I'd picked up after studying them for so long. The human is always doing something, Ploon. That's their primary characteristic. Constant, inexplicable action with minimal contemplation. No, this is different, Ploon insisted, his dermal flaps turning a bright purple with excitement. He's building something using parts from our waste reclamator. That got my attention. Subject 7734, or Marcus Finley, as he insisted on being called, had been aboard our research vessel for precisely 27 standard cycles. We'd found him floating in a damaged escape pod at the edge of the Taurus conflict zone, more dead than alive. Standard protocol dictated we bring aboard any survivors for study and potential information extraction. What we didn't expect was, well, him. I slithered hurriedly down the corridor to the observation chamber. Through the transparent aluminum barrier, I could see Marcus hunched over a collection of parts he'd apparently salvaged from our garbage disposal. His strange five-fingered hands moved with surprising dexterity, connecting wires and fitting components together. Has he spoken about what he's building? I asked Ploon, my scientific curiosity overriding my professional detachment. No, Commander. He just started collecting parts 3 cycles ago. He seems very determined. Determination. That was the word that kept coming up in our reports about humans. Their stubborn refusal to accept defeat or impossibility was simultaneously their most admirable and most infuriating quality. Where's Dr. Glix? I asked, not taking my eyes off the human, still analyzing the data from yesterday's cognitive tests. Should I summon her? No, let's observe for now. Marcus didn't look up from his work, though I knew he was aware of our presence. Humans had surprisingly acute peripheral vision for predators who'd given up most of their natural hunting advantages. His body showed the telltale signs of someone who'd seen extensive combat, a prosthetic leg from the knee down, with burn scars covering approximately 40% of his visible skin, and a cybernetic eye replacement that glowed faintly blue in dim light. "Good morning, Commander VZT Shara," Marcus suddenly said without looking up. Lovely day for some tinkering, wouldn't you say? His casual tone never failed to unsettle me. Here he was, the sole survivor of his battalion, captured by an alien species, being subjected to daily tests and observations, and yet he maintained this facade of normalcy? Was that the word? Subject 7734. What are you constructing? I asked formally, maintaining professional distance. Marcus finally looked up, a sardonic smile playing on his lips. First, it's Marcus. M-A-R-C-U-S. 7 syllables. Not complicated. Second, I'm building a communications device. Our scans indicate your neural implants were damaged beyond repair. There is no one for you to communicate with. His smile widened, showing teeth in what I'd learned was not necessarily a threat display among humans. That's where you are wrong, Commander. There's always someone listening if you know the right frequency. A chill ran through my central column. This was unexpected. Ploon, alert security, I said quietly. Oh, relax, Marcus said, waving dismissively with one hand. If I wanted to cause trouble, I would have done it 10 cycles ago when Dr. Glix left her access card in my chamber. By the way, terrible security protocols you have got here. Just embarrassing, really. I felt my pigmentation shifting to an alarmed orange. You had access to your entire ship? Yes. Did I take it? No. Because contrary to whatever propaganda your military feeds you, not all humans are genocidal maniacs bent on galactic domination. He paused his work and looked directly at me with those unsettling mismatched eyes, one brown, one glowing cybernetic blue. some of us just want the killing to stop. That was the moment I should have called for a full security team. It was the moment I should have had him sedated and placed in maximum containment. Instead, I asked, "What do you mean?" Marcus set down his tools and stood up with a slight grimace, his prosthetic leg clearly causing him discomfort. He walked to the barrier between us, close enough that I could see the fatigue etched into his face. I was a communications specialist for the 87th Terrestrial Defense Force. Before that, I was an engineer specializing in xenotech integration. Before that, I was a husband and father with a home on New Montana. I had a dog named Rusty, a garden where I grew actual tomatoes from Earth's soil, and a daughter who wanted to be an astronaut. His voice remained steady, but I detected minute changes in his pupil dilation and skin conductivity. The Taurus conflict took all of that away. Not just from me, but from millions like me. And millions like you, I'd wager. The Human Alliance struck first at the Proxima outpost, I replied automatically, reciting the official history. Marcus laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. Is that what they told you? Interesting. They told us the Galactic Confederation attacked our colony on Enceladus without provocation. Funny how that works, isn't it? Both sides always convinced they are the righteous defenders. And I shifted uncomfortably. This conversation was veering into dangerous territory. What are you really building, Marcus? I asked, dropping the subject designation. He smiled again, but this time it reached his organic eye. The translator. A real one, not the garbage approximation your ships use that loses half the cultural context and emotional subtext. For what purpose? To talk, of course. To actually communicate instead of just exchanging words. Don't you find it strange, Commander, that in a war that's lasted 12 years and claimed billions of lives, there hasn't been a single genuine diplomatic conversation? Not one? I hadn't considered this before. Our species had been at war with the humans for so long that the idea of actual dialogue seemed quaint. Naive, even. The Directorate has attempted negotiations 7 times, I countered. No, the Directorate has issued ultimatums 7 times, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. Trust me, I was there for 3 of them, translating the pompous bloviating from both sides. Ploon, who had been silent until now, suddenly interjected, "If you were just a communications specialist, why were you at diplomatic meetings?" Marcus turned his attention to my assistant, giving him an appraising look. Smart question. 4 lungs. I wasn't just a comms specialist. Before everything went to hell, I was part of the original cultural exchange program. I spent 2 years on Talaxia Prime studying your language and customs. I was supposed to be building bridges, not bunkers. This was news to me. Our records showed him only as a military operative. We have no record of such a program, I said. Of course you don't. Both our governments buried it when the war started. Can't have people thinking the enemy might be relatable, can we? Might make it harder to convince folks to vaporize each other. Before I could respond, an alarm blared throughout the ship. The lighting shifted to emergency red, and I felt the subtle change in gravity that indicated our vessel was executing evasive maneuvers. "Attention all personnel," came Admiral Vox Thallium's voice over the ship-wide communication system. "We have detected multiple human vessels on approach at battle stations. This is not a drill." Marcus's expression didn't change. If anything, he looked resigned. "Right on schedule," he muttered. "You knew this would happen," I accused, my pigmentation darkening with anger. "Your communication device, it's a beacon." "No," he said firmly. "It's exactly what I said it was. A translator. The beacon was already inside me." "What?" "What?" "My cybernetic implants. Standard procedure for high-value military personnel. If I'm alive, they can find me. I have known they were coming since day 1. Fear gripped me. You have led them right to us. This is a research vessel, not a warship. We have minimal defenses." "I know," Marcus said, his voice softening. "That's why I chose to be found by you and not a military cruiser. You are scientists, observers. There's still curiosity in you, not just hatred. The ship shuddered as something, presumably weapons fire, impacted our shields. Commander VZT Chara, to the bridge. Immediately came the Admiral's voice again. I turned to go, but Marcus's voice stopped me. Wait. You need to listen to me. This isn't a strike force, it's an extraction team. They are here for me, not to destroy your ship. Why should I believe you? I demanded. Because I could have killed everyone on this vessel several times over if I'd wanted to. Your antimatter containment protocols are laughably outdated. Another impact rocked the ship. What do you propose? I asked, calculating our chances of survival. Let me talk to them. Let me use the translator I have built to explain what I have learned here. Let me try to stop this madness before more people, human and Confederation alike, die for nothing. It was against every protocol, every rule of engagement, every instinct I had as an officer of the Galactic Confederation. Floon, open the containment field, I ordered. Commander, regulations state, override authorization VZT Chara Omega 73. Do it now. The barrier between us disappeared with a soft hum. Marcus nodded gratefully and gathered his device, a strange amalgamation of our technology and crude human adaptations. I need access to your communication array, he said. You realize if this is a trick, we will both be executed for treason, I told him as we hurried through the corridors. Marcus actually laughed. Story of my life, Commander. Always caught between two sides that want me dead for different reasons. We reached the bridge just as another blast hit the ship. This one powerful enough to knock out our artificial gravity for several seconds. Crew members floated momentarily before the backup systems engaged, sending several crashing ungracefully to the floor. Admiral Vox Thalim turned all three of his primary eyes toward us, his ceremonial headplate flaring in shock. Commander VZT Chara, what is the meaning of this? Why is the human subject unrestrained? Admiral, with respect, he may be our only chance of survival, I said, positioning myself protectively beside Marcus. They are charging weapons for another volley, called out our tactical officer. Shields at 42% and failing. Open a channel, Marcus said urgently. I need to speak to them now. The Admiral's rage was palpable, his scent glands releasing pheromones of fury and indignation. You dare to bring an enemy combatant to my bridge during an attack? I will have you flayed and processed for nutrient paste, Commander. Marcus ignored the threat and moved to the communication station, connecting his makeshift device to our systems with surprising ease. This is Marcus Finley, authorization code Tango Whiskey Epsilon 974 Delta, addressing UNDF Valiant. Captain Mercer, I know you can hear me. Stand down immediately. I repeat, stand down. Static filled the bridge speakers. Then a human voice responded, Marcus. Holy hell, you are alive. We thought, wait, are you their prisoner? Not exactly, Marcus replied, glancing at me. It's complicated. But I need you to hold your fire. This is a scientific vessel, not a military target. We have orders to extract you and neutralize the target. Admiral Kane was very specific. Marcus's expression hardened. Tell Admiral Kane that if he wants the data I have acquired, he will stand down now. Otherwise, I will destroy it, and he can explain to the Joint Chiefs why 12 years of work went up in smoke because he couldn't follow simple instructions. More silence, then holding position. You have 5 minutes to explain what the hell is going on, Marcus. Marcus looked at the Admiral, then at me. I need to explain something to both sides, and I need you all to listen carefully. This war? It's based on a lie. A translation error that was deliberately never corrected. What nonsense is this? The Admiral sputtered. The Proxima incident that started this war, Marcus continued, unperturbed. The message from the Confederation fleet that we interpreted as a declaration of hostilities. I have spent years analyzing it. With proper cultural context, it wasn't a threat, it was a warning about a solar flare that would hit our colony. I felt as though the deck had dropped from beneath me. That's impossible, is it? Your language uses the same phrase for eliminate the danger and eliminate the settlement. Context determines meaning. Our primitive translators missed that context. By the time anyone realized the mistake, thousands were dead, and both sides were calling for blood. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. You expect us to believe that 12 years of war, billions of casualties, were the result of a misunderstanding? The Admiral asked, his voice dangerously quiet. No, Marcus said, looking tired beyond measure. They were the result of pride, fear, and the military-industrial complexes on both sides that had been itching for a conflict to justify their budgets. The mistranslation was just the spark. But now I have proof. He activated his device, and holographic documents appeared in the air communications, classified reports, both human and Confederation. I have evidence that leaders on both sides knew the truth within months of the first hostilities. They chose to continue the war anyway. Millions dead, because no one wanted to admit a mistake. The human captain's voice came through again. Marcus, what are you saying? I'm saying I didn't lose my family, my home, and my leg because of alien hostility. I lost them because of human greed and Confederation pride. He looked around the bridge, meeting each set of eyes in turn. And I'm saying it stops now. Right here, on this ship, with all of us making a choice. Admiral Vox Thalim stared at the evidence floating before him, his pigmentation cycling through a range of emotions too complex for even my understanding. How do we know these aren't forgeries? He finally asked, though his tone lacked conviction. You don't, Marcus admitted. Not yet. But my translator can access your historical archives and compare linguistic patterns. It can prove what I'm saying in about 6 hours of processing time. The question is, are 6 hours and the possibility of peace worth the risk? Captain Mercer's voice broke the tense silence. Marcus, the extraction team is standing by. What's your call? Marcus looked at me, then at the Admiral. Your move, gentlemen. We either make history today, or we continue making graves. Your choice. And in that moment, staring into the eyes of a human who had every reason to hate us yet was offering peace instead, I made the most consequential decision of my life. Admiral Vox Thalim, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, I recommend we stand down and consider the human's proposal. The Admiral's headplate flared so dramatically I feared it might crack. You dare suggest capitulation to these barbarians? Have you lost your faculties, Commander? With respect, sir, I'm suggesting we consider the possibility that we have been fighting under false pretenses. I gestured to the holographic evidence Marcus had presented. If there's even a fraction of truth to this, don't we owe it to the billions who have died to at least investigate? The bridge had gone deathly quiet. Every crew member, from the most junior technician to the senior officers, was watching this exchange with mounting tension. Marcus stood silently, his strange device still connected to our systems. I noticed his organic hand was trembling slightly, not from fear, I suspected, but from the weight of this moment. How strange that the fate of two civilizations might hinge on this damaged human and his garbage-built translator. Captain Mercer, Marcus called out, addressing the human vessel. What if I told you I could prove that Admiral Kane knew about the translation error 3 months into the war? That he deliberately buried the evidence because Proxicorp had just secured a $1 trillion contract for new warship production? There was a long pause before Captain Mercer responded, his voice noticeably strained. That's a serious accusation, Marcus. Yes, it is, and I can prove it. Just like I can prove that High Chancellor Zoc of the Confederation suppressed similar findings because the war gave him the political leverage to consolidate power across 3 sectors. Admiral Vox Thalim's pigmentation shifted to a dangerous deep crimson. You speak treason against the High Chancellor. No, Marcus countered, his voice firm but not antagonistic. I speak truth. And truth is only treason to those who profit from lies. I found myself admiring his courage. Here he stood, surrounded by what his people considered enemies, accusing the leaders of both factions of atrocities beyond measure. Either he was insane or possessed of a conviction so powerful it transcended fear. "Admiral," I said quietly, "what if he's right?" The Admiral turned all three primary eyes toward me, his ancestral ridges pulsing with barely contained fury. "You would take the word of a human over your own government? Your own species?" "I would take the word of evidence, sir. As a scientist. As someone who has sworn to pursue truth." Marcus's device suddenly emitted a series of rapid beeps. He glanced down at it, then looked up with renewed urgency. "We are running out of time. 3 more human vessels just entered the system, and I'm betting at least 2 Confederation battlecruisers aren't far behind. Once they arrive, neither of us will be able to control what happens next." Captain Mercer's voice crackled through the comm system again. "Marcus, Admiral Kane is demanding a status update." I can't stall much longer. The tension on the bridge was palpable. I could feel the ship's environmental system struggling to process the stress pheromones being released by my fellow officers. 6 hours, I said suddenly. "Give us 6 hours to verify his claims. If they prove false, you can have your human back and continue this pointless war. If they are true." I let the implication hang in the air. "And why should we trust you won't simply use those 6 hours to bring in reinforcements?" Captain Mercer challenged. "Because," Marcus interjected, "Commander VZT Chara is going to come aboard your vessel as a gesture of good faith while I remain here. It's a mutual insurance policy." I turned to him in shock. "That wasn't part of our agreement." Marcus gave me a weary smile. "There was no agreement, Commander. Just a choice between courage and cowardice." "Admiral Vox." Halim slammed his control appendage against his command console. "This is absurd. I forbid this course of action." "With respect, Admiral," I replied, surprised by my own boldness, "you are outnumbered." I gestured around the bridge, where every officer had subtly positioned themselves closer to me than to the Admiral. "Your crew has lost family, friends, and homeworlds to this conflict. If there's a chance to end it, they deserve that chance." For a tense moment, I thought the Admiral might order security to arrest us all. Instead, his pigmentation gradually shifted to a muted blue, a sign of reluctant acquiescence in our species. 6 hours, he finally said. "Not 1 microcycle more. And Commander, if this proves to be a human trick, I will personally ensure your genetic line is eradicated from our species' memory." "Understood, Admiral," I said, trying not to show my relief. "Captain Mercer, do we have an agreement?" "He confirmed," came the human's voice. "We will prepare a shuttle bay for your arrival, Commander. But I warn you, make one suspicious move, and you will never see your ship again." "Noted, Captain," I replied. "I expect the same courtesy will be extended to Marcus during his continued stay aboard our vessel." As preparations were made for the exchange, Marcus pulled me aside, speaking in a low voice that only I could hear. "There's something I didn't mention in front of your Admiral," he said, his mismatched eyes intense. "Something you need to know before you board that ship." "More revelations?" I asked, my patience wearing thin. "The data I showed you is only part of the story. The complete archives are locked in my neural implant, protected by biometric encryption. If anything happens to me, if my vitals flatline, that data automatically uploads to every communication hub in range, both human and Confederation." I stared at him, processing the implications. "You have turned yourself into a dead man's switch." He nodded grimly. "After I lost my family, I had nothing left to live for except the truth. I have spent 7 years gathering this evidence, infiltrating databases, bribing officials, risking everything. If I die, everyone knows everything. The war ends, but probably in the worst possible way, with revolts, assassinations, chaos. Why tell me this? Because you need to understand what's at stake. This isn't just about proving I'm right. It's about managing the revelation in a way that leads to peace, not more bloodshed. The truth can be as destructive as any weapon if deployed carelessly." I found myself respecting this human more with each passing moment. He'd suffered unimaginable loss, yet still cared about minimizing harm to both sides. "What do you need me to do on the human ship?" I asked. "Do. Meta. Find Captain Mercer's personal files. His family was on Enceladus when the colony was destroyed. If anyone will help us once they know the truth, it's him. He has the moral authority to make other humans listen." Before I could respond, a junior officer approached us. "The shuttle is ready, Commander." With a final nod to Marcus, I followed the officer toward the docking bay, my mind racing with the enormity of what we were attempting. The journey to the human vessel was brief but felt eternal. Their shuttle was utilitarian and uncomfortable, clearly designed for efficiency rather than passenger comfort. The human pilot kept his weapon trained on me the entire time, his expression a mixture of disgust and curiosity. "Never thought I'd see one of you up close without a targeting reticle," he muttered. I chose not to respond. What could I possibly say that would matter to someone who had likely lost comrades to my species? Captain Mercer was waiting when we docked, flanked by armed guards. He was taller than Marcus, with skin several shades darker and no visible cybernetic enhancements. His uniform bore numerous decorations that I assumed signified valor in their strange hierarchical system. "Commander VZT Chara," he said, pronouncing my name with surprising accuracy. "Welcome aboard the UNDF Valiant, though welcome might be stretching it." "Thank you, Captain," I replied formally. "I understand your reservations." "Reservations?" He laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. "That's a diplomatic way of putting it. I have lost 2 ships and over 800 crew to your Confederation. Our reservations doesn't begin to cover it." "And we have lost millions to human aggression," I countered. "Yet here we are, attempting dialogue rather than destruction. That must count for something." The captain studied me for a long moment, then nodded curtly. "We have set up a secure communication link to your vessel. You can monitor Marcus's progress from our bridge. Follow me and keep your appendages where my people can see them." The human ship was fascinating, a strange combination of advanced technology and puzzlingly primitive design choices. Where our vessels emphasized ergonomic efficiency and biological integration, theirs seemed built around redundancy and brute force solutions. Everything was hardened, reinforced, as if they expected parts of their own ship to turn against them at any moment. How telling, I thought. Even their ships reflected their paranoia. The bridge of the Valiant was a stark contrast to our research vessel, where ours was open and spacious, designed to facilitate thought and collaboration. Theirs was compact, almost claustrophobic, with crew members seated at individual stations surrounded by physical control interfaces. "Primitive," I muttered before I could stop myself. Captain Mercer heard me. "Primitive but effective. We have destroyed plenty of your advanced ships with our outdated technology. A fact that should give both our species pause," I replied. "Perhaps the measure of civilization isn't technological sophistication, but how rarely one needs to use weapons, regardless of their design." That seemed to give the captain momentary pause. "Monitor Station 2, he finally said, gesturing to an empty console. "You can observe your ship and communicate with Marcus from there." The next 5 hours were among the most tense of my entire career. I watched as Marcus worked with our scientists, his makeshift translator device processing vast amounts of linguistic and cultural data from both human and Confederation archives. Occasionally, he would request specific files or access to particular databases, which the Admiral reluctantly granted under pressure from the increasingly intrigued science team. "He's actually doing it," murmured one of the human officers, watching over my shoulder. "The translation matrices are showing significant divergence from standard interpretation protocols." "Of course they are," I replied. "Your translation systems were built on faulty premises from the beginning. You have been talking to an entirely different species than the one that actually exists." Captain Mercer, who had been silent for most of the observation period, suddenly addressed me directly. "If what Marcus claims is true, if this entire war was based on a deliberate mistranslation, who benefits? Who would want our species to destroy each other?" It was a perceptive question, one I'd been pondering myself. Perhaps no one wanted complete destruction. Perhaps they just wanted controlled conflict enough to justify military expansion, resource allocation, political consolidation. War is profitable for certain segments of any society. Familiar story, Mercer said grimly. Same garbage, different planet. Indeed. Perhaps our species are more alike than either side would care to admit. Before the captain could respond, Marcus's voice came through the communication system. I have got it, he said, his tone a mixture of triumph and sorrow. Irrefutable proof. The original Proxima transmission, the correct translation, and internal memos from both governments acknowledging the error and deciding to proceed with hostilities anyway. He transmitted the data to both vessels simultaneously. As it appeared on the screens before us, a profound silence fell over the Valiant's bridge. The evidence was overwhelming: communications between military leaders, corporate executives, and government officials, all conspiring to maintain a war they knew was based on a lie. Captain Mercer's face had gone ashen as he read through the files. My wife and son were on Enceladus, he said quietly. I watched it burn from orbit during the evacuation. They told us it was a Confederation first strike. And our people were told humans had violated territorial agreements and fired on civilian transports, I replied. Both lies. Both calculated to ensure maximum outrage. Marcus appeared on the view screen, looking exhausted but resolute. Now you understand why this information needs to be handled carefully. Released all at once, it could cause chaos, military coup, civilian uprisings. And released strategically, it could force leadership on both sides to the negotiating table. Captain Mercer straightened, his expression hardening into determination. Admiral Kane is 20 minutes out with 3 additional warships. What's our play here? We need to get this information to people who can use it effectively, Marcus replied. Military leaders who haven't been compromised, civilian oversight committees, independent media outlets. And we need to do it before Admiral Vox Thalim or your Admiral Kane can stop us, I added. A young human officer suddenly called out, Captain. We are detecting multiple Confederation signatures entering the system. Looks like a full battle group. So much for 6 hours, Captain Mercer muttered. They must have had reinforcements closer than we thought. Marcus's expression grew urgent. It's now or never. I'm initiating the data transfer to the secured channels we discussed, Commander. I nodded, making my decision. Do it. Captain Mercer, I suggest you prepare your crew for possible hostilities. Neither admiral will be pleased when they realize what we have done. Already on it, Mercer replied, turning to his tactical officer. Shields up, weapons on standby, but hold fire unless fired upon. The next 20 minutes were pure chaos. As both human and Confederation reinforcements arrived in the system, Marcus and I worked frantically to distribute the evidence to key figures on both sides. The small research vessel where Marcus remained became a hub of unauthorized communications, broadcasting truth into the darkness of space like a beacon. Admiral Vox Thalim threatened, blustered, and finally attempted to lock down all systems only to discover that Marcus had anticipated this and created multiple back doors into the ship's communication array. Similarly, Admiral Kane ordered the Valiant to stand down and surrender the alien spy immediately. Captain Mercer's response was succinct and unprintable in any formal report. As tensions escalated and weapons were powered up on all sides, something unexpected happened. A message cut through all communication channels, both human and Confederation, overriding encryption and command protocols. Marcus's face appeared on every screen, his expression solemn. My name is Marcus Finley. 12 years ago, I lost everything I loved to this war. My wife, my daughter, my home, my belief in justice. Today, I'm going to show you why that happened and who is responsible. I ask only that you watch, listen, and then decide for yourselves whether another life on either side should be sacrificed for this lie. What followed was a masterfully edited presentation of the evidence, as interspersed with personal stories from both humans and Confederation citizens who had lost loved ones to the conflict. It was devastating in its simplicity and irrefutable in its documentation. When it concluded, There was silence across all channels. The kind of silence that changes worlds. Admiral Kane broke it first. "Captain Mercer, you will execute the traitor Finley immediately or face court-martial." Before Mercer could respond, another voice joined the channel, one I recognized as belonging to the Human Joint Chiefs of Staff. "Delay that order, Admiral Kane. You are relieved of command pending investigation." "Captain Mercer, stand by for new orders." Similar scenes played out across Confederation channels, as military leaders not implicated in the conspiracy began asserting control over those who were. 6 hours after Marcus first connected his makeshift translator to our systems, representatives from both the Human Alliance and the Galactic Confederation agreed to an immediate ceasefire and preliminary peace talks. I stood on the bridge of the Valiant beside Captain Mercer, watching as the news spread across both our civilizations. Reports were coming in of celebrations and vigils, of anger and relief, of recrimination and reconciliation. "What happens now?" Mercer asked quietly. "Justice, hopefully," I replied, "for those who perpetuated this massacre for profit and power. Healing, eventually, for everyone else." "And what about him?" Mercer nodded toward the viewscreen, where Marcus could be seen being escorted not as a prisoner, but as an honored guest to a neutral vessel where the preliminary talks would be held. "I suspect he will be central to whatever comes next," I said. "He lost everything to this war. Now he's the reason it ended." Mercer nodded thoughtfully. "You know, when this all started, I would have gladly killed every last one of your species without a second thought. And I would have classified yours as irredeemably violent and worthy of containment, if not elimination," I admitted. "Funny how perspective changes when you actually talk to someone instead of just shooting at them." "Indeed, Captain. Perhaps that's the first lesson our species need to learn from this catastrophe. Communication before confrontation." As our vessels prepared to join the gathering at the neutral meeting point, I found myself reflecting on the strange journey that had brought us here. How one damaged human with a translator built from garbage had managed what fleets of warships could not. He had brought truth to a conflict built on lies. And in doing so, he had given both our species something neither had felt in 12 long years: hope. The war had taken everything from Marcus Finley. But in return, he had taken the war itself from everyone else. An uneven trade, perhaps, but one that might just save two civilizations from their own worst instincts. Humans truly were the most ridiculous species the galaxy had ever produced, capable of unimaginable destruction and unexpected salvation in equal measure, terrifying in their potential for both. As I prepared to represent my people at the peace talks, I made a silent promise we would not waste this second chance. Too many had died for us to squander the peace they would never know. And somewhere, I hoped, the family Marcus had lost would have been proud of what he had built from the ashes of his grief, not vengeance, but reconciliation. Not more destruction, but the foundation for a lasting peace.